Our next speaker is going to be Dr. James Melius from the Lesson Program. And why don't you talk about what are the union issues with related to the Port Authority and the concept of the Goethals Bridge and some other things like that? Thank you.
Say, nice of Lou to let you know what he wants you to talk about 30 seconds before. I'm not going to talk about that.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question later, but that's that. When I first I met Chris Ward, was when you were first at the Port Authority, and I forget your title there, planning or something like that. And he gave actually a great presentation on the sort of the regional impact, economic impact of some expansions in the Port Authority and how it affected the economy in the region. And it was so impressive. He had a great slide showing the whole New England, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, in New York, all the impacts from Port Authority projects. And actually sent him a note and asked him to send me a copy of that slide because I thought it was so great. And at that point, I think all of us were talking about, well, where were we going to build, what projects, how are we going to expand the subway system, the road system, replacing the Tappan Zee Bridge, and all these other grand projects and grand plans. And that sort of approach is sort of slowly, I guess I would call it deteriorated, where the only thing we really need to focus on now, and I was glad Chris talked about it, was how are we going to get the public to pay for this infrastructure that I think all recognize that we need, all recognize that the benefit of it, but we are having huge struggles, both New York State and on a national basis, of deciding how are we going to develop basically get the revenue that's needed to make these investments and to even maintain our system, transportation system, our other infrastructure, let alone how we do the beneficial and necessary expansions of that system. And I think that's been, it's going to be our focus for a while, given the political realities and the economic realities of our country and our state. But it is a major change in terms of what our focus in this kind of a meeting or any other meeting dealing with infrastructure was. Many, even 10, maybe even 5 years ago, we were much more optimistic about what we could do, and we certainly have made the investments in some major projects, Second Avenue Subway, et cetera, to try to improve our economy and improve our transportation systems. But right now we're at a point where we just in Albany passed our 5-year plans for MTA and for highways and bridges became 2-year plans, I believe. I haven't seen the details. I think Mary Ann will talk a little bit more about that, certainly on the MTA side when she speaks. And without really a clear idea of how we're going to pay for it. Our highway and bridge fund in New York, which is basically running out of money, partly because we've decided to spend about 2/3 of the money in the so-called lockbox trust fund. We spend 2/3 of it on either debt costs, paying off the bonds, or have diverted it to operational costs, state police and motor vehicle licensing and matters like that, so that we're now at the point where this year and into the future we're going to have to be transferring money into it unless we're willing to raise the gas tax and fuel taxes in the state in order to come up with some other way of replenishing that fund. The national level, we're really having the same argument, and we're doing 3-month, 6-month, or now I guess a 1-year extension of the safety loo, and trying to struggle from year to year to pay for that on that. I mean, it was even interesting that a couple of years ago when DOT, New York State DOT, came out with their plan for the highway and bridge infrastructure, they came up with was roughly $27 billion plan, I believe. And that did not include any money for the major projects that need to be done, such as replacing the Tappan Zee Bridge. And as that plan came out, the Governor Patterson immediately issued a press release saying, that basically we couldn't afford it, and therefore he, basically wasn't supporting his own agency's, own administration's 5-year plan. Now, whether, on a political level, I mean, doing a 2-year plan, maybe doing the safety loop extensions and other infrastructure extensions in Albany and Washington makes sense, but it doesn't make sense forever, and it doesn't pay for the Goethals Bridge. It doesn't pay for all the other major work we have, and you start to wonder if we're going to, have to abandon things like the Second Avenue subway, which we did once before, and whether we'll ever really be able to replace the Tappan Zee Bridge. And you look at the way our infrastructure is deteriorating around the state, particularly bridges are the best example because of the great expansion in the 50s and 60s where we made all the investments. All those bridges are now reached the end of their life. Like as Chris was talking about the George Washington Bridge. We have some major investments that we absolutely need to make or they're going to fall down or get closed like we had with the Lake Champlain Bridge this past year to that. So we have to come up with ways of providing the money for that. It's not so much one of the organizations I work with, head of the New York Roadway Improvement Coalition, we actually commissioned a study, look at what would various revenue sources raise. And this was mainly focused on the Highway and Bridge Trust Fund, but because a similar report had been done to deal with the MTA system and so forth. But if you take it, it would cost for $1 billion worth of investment per year into that fund, you would have to cost the average motorist in New York about $40 per year in increased gas taxes. Various ways you can do that, and the formula itself is complicated. It's not a lot of money in taxes, but for various reasons in this political climate, nobody even wants to go near that on a either federal or state level, do that. But we at some point have to face reality. I think, as Chris said, we can try to get innovative. We tried different approaches, congestion pricing. That proposal didn't work politically for various reasons, but we need to get realistic and come up with better ways. Our union, national union, is launching a new campaign now called Build America. We're going to go around from state to state around the country. We're basically saying we're going to take a lot of our money we used to invest in political campaigns, and we're going to change that money, invest that money in a public campaign on infrastructure investment. Basically, if we're taking our members' money into political contributions and not getting, seeing anything happen in terms of jobs and so forth for our members, we're looking for other ways. So we've launched that campaign. We did in Colorado about 3 weeks ago. We're expanding it out across the country. We'll bring it to New York probably later in the fall. And see what we can do on that level, trying to hold politicians accountable, trying to make the message that we do need to make this investment. And I think that's where we all need to concentrate and look forward to some further discussion on this. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you, Jim. And Chris, will you support the Build America program?
Absolutely, sounds great.
We get a handshake on that, or photo op, or whatever you want to call that. So, how many here would be in support of spending $40 a year in increased gas tax to build the New York State roads? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it, Jim. We're done.
Only that easy.
I'm trying. Just another point, OTG Management is one of the sponsors here, and I want to thank you for participating in Balcony, and hope you can come on board and join us and have fun like this.